what up? It's Gabe Ramirez. And of course, we have our poster series all season long where you've been able to pick up one of 6 iconic, unique posters. And today we have our newest illustrator, Walker TKL, in the building. What's going on, man?
How's it going? Good to be here.
Yeah. We were talking outside how it's cool that teams kind of take advantage of the talent in the Chicago area, able to do things like this. Why do you feel like that's so important? And why do you think collaborations like that are important?
I love anytime I can get to do work for a local team. I think, Chicago obviously has a great community of artists, and it's always a privilege to be able to work with the local team because, again, Chicago is a part of my identity. So to kind of get to put that into my work and have it all come together with the team, it's amazing.
So you're from Chicago.
Yes.
All right, whereabouts?
Right now I live in Ukrainian Village.
Okay.
I grew up on the far south side in the neighborhood of Beverly.
Okay, where'd you go to high school?
I went to Brother Rice.
Oh, you played sports over there?
No, I didn't. But yeah, it's a big sports school.
Yeah, that it is. And Chicago, you mentioned it, right? You are, really influenced by so many things in this city, right? Whether it's musically, culturally. Talk about how the city has not necessarily defined, but helped shape what it is that you do.
I think it has a great tradition of obviously art and architecture and lots of stuff to pull from the history and culture of the city. For me in particular, it was so cool to get to do this project is that it's a screen printed poster. And I kind of defined my artistic style through looking at great artists who came up in the screen printing scene, doing gig posters for shows and music and stuff like that. So I always love when I get the opportunity to design a screen printed poster.
It seems like that's so Chicago too, right?
Yeah.
You're talking about Double Door, Wicker Park,
For sure,
just
yes.
right there. This is exactly what you're looking at. But then you graduated from Syracuse.
Yes.
Right. What was that like leaving Chicago, going away for that first time and, exploring and expanding on your artistry?
It was great. Again, another big sports school. And funny enough, I didn't even really get into doing sports related art till after college, but I think it all informed my experience. I'm a huge basketball fan. Obviously, the basketball team there is awesome. Yeah, it was a great experience. Kind of went to an art school within a larger university. So I loved that experience. It was great. Yeah.
Seems like there's a lot of unique things that are coming together to kind of mold who is Walker TKL. So talk about your style, right? Obviously, we talked about, how your background has kind of influenced that. But the style itself, how you approach creating art, what is that like for you?
Yeah, I try to, be representational in that I try to, draw subjects realistically to some degree, but then also integrate these kinds of ideas of abstraction and surrealism into the work. So I try to bring those two things together to create something that my goal is always just to make something I haven't seen before and that I want to see exist in the world. And that's basically what I go for with every piece that I do. Sometimes I succeed more than other times, but that's always the goal.
Well, you were definitely successful with this one. This is unlike anything I've ever seen before. This unique poster for Chicago Fire versus Inter Miami. Now, the fire is, you don't need explanation for that. That's there in the background. Why did you want to make it such a big part of the poster?
Fire is obviously such an evocative image. I was like, if we're going to do fire, let's do fire.
Yeah.
So, and then obviously, the flamingo for Inter Miami.
All right, why'd you choose that? Because there's so many things you could have chosen for Miami. What made you go with the flamingo?
This is a bit of a deep reference, but I was watching a documentary about yacht rock, and there's this artist, Christopher Cross, and they showed his album cover, and it's just like a flamingo, a painting of a flamingo, and some cool typography. I was like, I think that's my favorite album cover.
That's
so
got to be.
I want to draw a flamingo.
Makes sense.
So I put it in there.
But there's other elements in here as well, right? We get to see, the soccer. You see the pitch out there. You get a small soccer ball. You didn't want that to dominate the poster so much, but you found ways to incorporate it. Talk to me about those pieces in particular.
Yeah, I think with doing sports work, it's easy to kind of be a little overly straightforward. If you're, trying to represent a specific game or something. And so I wanted to try to be a little bit more subtle with that and kind of put the focus on the flamingo and the fire imagery, but obviously still wanted to convey that it is a soccer game we're promoting. So
gotta get that in there. You gotta make sure that's there.
The thought process, yeah.
But I love it. I mean, like something like this, it just comes off so unique. One of one, fans be able to pick it up again during the match, Chicago Fire versus Inter Miami. But do you feel like when you're creating, whether it be for a big brand or for yourself, that there is a difference, right? Do you feel like it's all the same when you're creating your own work or when you're being hired to do something, whether it's for ESPN, Chicago Fire?
Yeah, I mean, obviously when I'm doing work for myself, there's a little bit more freedom, more time, and so I'm able to experiment a little bit more. But the goal is always, if I'm working for a client, no matter the size of it, is to bring my style to that work. That's the reason they're hiring me, is they've seen what I can do. And so, I try to keep it consistent. And then when I am able to kind of do stuff that's not client work, personal work, that's where I'm able to kind of experiment a little bit, add some stuff to my style. There's different avenues to do that stuff, but try to make sure I have a defined style, so people, when they see Walker TKL, they know what they're getting.
Yeah, and they're definitely gonna be getting a unique piece with this one. Just trying to put into words for me, what it's like to do something for the hometown team, right? You talk about being able to do something for clients, but this is Chicago. All right, this is Chicago Fire. This is Walker TKL, Chicago Inn. What does that mean for you when you see those two things married?
Again, I love being able to do work for hometown teams. I've been lucky enough to do them for a number of Chicago teams. And again, it's such a big part of my identity, being from Chicago and living here for almost all of my life. When I'm able to kind of be associated with a team that's from Chicago, professional team, that's the dream. I grew up watching all these teams, so it's super special to be able to be associated with them in that way.
And you also represent for us outside of Chicago, right? We can see your work not only on these posters on your website, but it lives elsewhere. Tell us about some of the other projects that you've worked on recently.
Yeah, one of the big ones I've worked on recently is a documentary that's on Max called We Beat the Dream Team. And they have kind of interstitial illustrations in there for when they don't have footage of a certain game or whatever. And so I did work on that. So if you want to check out some more of my work and you have Max, then feel free to turn that on.
Then you can look at the show and be like, I know that guy. But it'll be even better if you picked up the poster. You can grab it. April 13th, Chicago Fire versus Inter Miami. But don't forget, we'll have 4 more opportunities for you to pick up posters from unique illustrators from the Chicagoland area all season long. All right, I'm Gabe Ramirez. He's Walker TKL. Make sure you guys support this guy and make sure you grab that poster on April 13th. Appreciate you hanging out.
Thank you.